Throughout history, some sailors have defied the oceans, braved relentless storms, and achieved extraordinary feats that changed the course of maritime exploration forever. In today's video, we're diving into the 10 greatest and most famous sailors of all time, individuals whose courage, skill, and adventurous spirit have inspired generations. From legendary explorers who charted unknown waters to modern-day sailors who shattered impossible records, each of these figures left an undeniable mark on the world of sailing. Their stories are filled with challenges, triumphs, and moments that redefined what it means to navigate the seas. Can you imagine having the determination of Magellan, the audacity of Joshua Slocum, or the resilience of Socrates? In this video, we won't just reveal who these sailing giants are. We'll take a deep dive into their journeys, their strategies, and the lasting legacies they've left behind. So trim your sails and get ready for an epic voyage through maritime history. Stay with us until the end and let us know, which of these sailors do you think is the greatest of all time? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more incredible content on sailing, safety, and adventures across the high seas. Now let's set sail. Number 10, Serge Testa, 1984 to 1988. Serge Testa, an Australian sailor born in 1950, achieved an extraordinary feat by circumnavigating the globe in the smallest recorded boat, the Acro HC Australis, measuring only 11 feet and 10 inches, 3.6 meters. He departed from Brisbane, Australia in 1984 and completed his journey in 1987 after 3 years and 2 months, covering approximately 30,000 nautical miles. Testa, a metal worker by profession, designed and built the boat using aluminum, creating an innovative vessel that could be sealed with a hatch, allowing him to sail and rest protected in adverse conditions. His route included crossings of the Pacific, Indian, and Atlantic Oceans, facing storms, giant waves, and the extreme isolation of a tiny space. Testa's journey was marked by unique challenges. He used celestial navigation with a sextant without relying on modern electronics, and faced incidents such as a collision with a merchant ship that damaged his boat, requiring improvised repairs at sea. Additionally, he survived shark attacks and severe weather conditions, such as 50-knot winds in the Indian Ocean, which tested the limits of his vessel and physical endurance. His diet was basic, consisting of canned food and stored water, necessitating meticulous planning to avoid starvation on long crossings. Testa's feat was recognized by the Guinness World Records as the circumnavigation in the smallest boat, surpassing adversities that few would dare to face. He documented his experience in the book, 500 Days Around the World on a 12-Foot Yacht, published in 1988, detailing the highs and lows of his adventure, including moments of despair and personal triumphs. After completing the voyage, the Acro HC Australis was donated to the Queensland Maritime Museum, where it remains on display as a testament to his courage. For men over 60, Testa's story, while inspiring, highlights the extreme risks of circumnavigations in small vessels, especially with the physical fragility that accompanies age. His determination and technical skill were crucial, but the lack of space, comfort, and safety make this type of adventure particularly dangerous for seniors. Testa, who was about 34 years old at the time, had youth and vigor, something that seniors may not have, making his feat an example of overcoming adversity, but also of caution. Number 9, Dodge Morgan, 1985 to 1986. Dodge Morgan, born in 1932 in Massachusetts, USA, became the first American to circumnavigate the world alone, without stops and without assistance, an impressive milestone in the history of sailing. He departed from St. George, Bermuda, on November 12, 1985, aboard the American Promise, a 60-foot sloop specifically designed for the voyage by Ted Hood. After 150 days, 1 hour, and 6 minutes, Morgan returned to the same point on April 11, 1986, covering about 27,500 nautical miles in a record time for an American at the time, surpassing the previous record of 292 days. His route included passing the 5 Great Capes, Cape of Good Hope, Leeuwin, Horn, Tasman, and Agulhas, facing some of the most treacherous waters on the planet. Before sailing, Morgan was a pilot in the U.S. Air Force and an entrepreneur, selling his electronics company to finance the expedition at the age of 53. He equipped the American Promise with advanced technology for the time, such as autopilot and shortwave radio, but faced extreme challenges, including storms with winds up to 60 knots in the South Atlantic and prolonged solitude. A critical moment occurred near Cape Horn, where 40-foot waves threatened to overturn the boat, requiring physical and mental strength to maintain course. He kept a detailed diary, later published as The Voyage of American Promise, revealing his struggle against fatigue and monotony, balanced by moments of awe at the vastness of the ocean. Morgan planned the trip with military precision, stocking supplies for 200 days, including dehydrated food and water, and trained extensively to operate the boat alone. His feat was celebrated as a triumph of human ingenuity, but also highlighted the risks of such an undertaking. He faced minor mechanical failures, such as problems with the autopilot, resolved with improvised repairs, showcasing his technical skill. For men over 60, Morgan's story, accomplished at the age of 53, serves as inspiration, but also as a warning. The physical and mental endurance required for 150 uninterrupted days at sea, especially in hostile waters, can be prohibitive for seniors whose strength and reflexes diminish with age. His exceptional preparation was key, but prolonged exposure to risks makes this adventure dangerous for older sailors. Number 8. Kay Cottee, 1987 to 1988. Kay Cottee, born in 1954 in Sydney, Australia, became the first woman to circumnavigate the world alone, without stops and without assistance, a historic achievement that cemented her place among the great sailors. She departed from Sydney on November 29, 1987, aboard the Blackmore's First Lady, a 37-foot sloop designed by Cavalier Yachts, and returned on June 5, 1988. After 189 days, covering more than 25,000 nautical miles. Her route included passing the 5 Great Capes, Cape of Good Hope, Leeuwin, Horn, Tasman, and Agulhas, facing some of the most challenging conditions on the planet. Cottee, at just 33 years old at the time, already had experience in coastal cruising, but this journey tested her physical and emotional limits. The journey was marked by extreme adversities. In the Antarctic Ocean, she faced winds of 70 knots and waves of 40 feet, nearly capsizing the boat near Cape Horn. Cottee also navigated through floating ice fields, requiring constant vigilance to avoid collisions. Without external assistance, she relied on celestial navigation with a sextant and a radio for weather updates, maintaining supplies like canned food and water for 6 months. A critical moment occurred when the autopilot failed, forcing her to repair it mid-storm, demonstrating her technical skill and resilience. Cottee documented her experience in First Lady, a solo voyage around the world. Released in 1989, narrating the challenges and loneliness of 189 days at sea, balanced by moments of connection with nature, such as whale sightings. Upon returning, she was greeted by 25,000 people in Sydney and named Australian of the Year in 1988, with her boat now displayed at the Australian National Maritime Museum. Her achievement inspired women in sailing, showing that gender does not limit one's ability to face the ocean. For men over 60, Cottee's story, accomplished in her youth, highlights the risks of solo circumnavigations. The physical strength needed for repairs at sea, the endurance against storms, and the ability to withstand long periods of isolation are challenging with age. While inspiring, her feat underscores the need for vigor and preparation, making such voyages potentially dangerous for seniors, whose health and reflexes may not withstand such pressure. Number 7. Dame Ellen MacArthur, 2004 to 2005. Dame Ellen MacArthur, born in 1976 in Derbyshire, England, is recognized as one of the greatest sailors in history for her fastest solo circumnavigation, completed between 2004 and 2005. She departed from Falmouth, England, on November 28, 2004, aboard the trimaran B&Q Castorama, a 75-foot vessel designed for speed and endurance. After 71 days, 14 hours, 18 minutes, and 33 seconds, she returned on February 7, 2005, covering approximately 27,354 nautical miles and breaking the previous record held by Frances Joyon by 1 day and 8 hours. Her route included the 5 Great Capes, facing extreme conditions in the South Atlantic and the Antarctic Ocean. At 28 years old, MacArthur already had experience in solo regattas, such as the Vendée Globe. But this voyage pushed her to her limits. The challenges were immense. Near Cape Horn, she faced winds of 70 knots and waves of 50 feet, requiring constant adjustments to the trimaran, a light and unstable vessel in heavy seas. She climbed the 90-foot mast multiple times for repairs, risking falls in sub-zero temperatures. With no stops or assistance, she relied on a stock of dehydrated food and desalinated water, along with GPS navigation and radio for weather updates. Her determination was tested by extreme fatigue and solitude, but she maintained a video diary later used in the documentary Taking on the World, capturing her struggle and triumph. Ellen was knighted Dame Commander of the Order of the British Empire in 2005 at the age of 28, becoming the youngest person to receive such an honor, and her feat was celebrated worldwide. After sailing, she founded the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, focused on the circular economy, showcasing her impact beyond the sea. Her journey inspired sailors by demonstrating that speed and endurance can coexist in adverse conditions. For men over 60, MacArthur's story, accomplished in her youth, highlights the risks of circumnavigations in high-performance boats. The physical demands of climbing masts, operating a trimaran in storms, and enduring 71 days without rest are intense, even for someone young and fit. For seniors with reduced strength and reflexes, such challenges become dangerous, making her feat an example of courage but also of caution for advanced age. Number 6. Dame Naomi James, 1977 to 1978. Dame Naomi James, born in 1949 in New Zealand, became the first woman to circumnavigate the globe solo via Cape Horn, a historic achievement that marked modern sailing. She departed from Dartmouth, England, on September 9, 1977, aboard the Express Crusader, a 53-foot sloop borrowed from Sir Che Blyth. After 272 days, she returned on June 8, 1978, covering approximately 27,000 nautical miles and beating Sir Francis Chichester's record by 2 days. Her route included the Cape of Good Hope and Cape Horn, facing some of the most dangerous waters on the planet. At 28 years old, James had little sailing experience before preparing for the voyage, making her achievement even more remarkable. The challenges were intense. In the Antarctic Ocean, she faced winds of 60 knots and waves of 40 feet, nearly capsizing the boat near Cape Horn. The autopilot failed several times, requiring manual repairs under adverse conditions, and an unplanned stop at the Falkland Islands was necessary after hull damage. Without external assistance, James relied on celestial navigation with a sextant and a radio for weather updates, carrying supplies like canned food and water for months. Her solitude was broken by encounters with dolphins, but the psychological pressure of 272 days isolated tested her resilience. James documented her journey in At One with the Sea, published as Woman Alone in the U.S., released in 1979, detailing the highs and lows of the voyage, including moments of fear and triumph. Upon returning, she was greeted by crowds and named Dame Commander of the Order of the British Empire in 1979 at the age of 30, recognizing her courage and impact. Her feat paved the way for women in sailing, inspiring figures like Cottee and Ellen MacArthur. For men over 60, James's story, accomplished in her youth, highlights the risks of solo circumnavigations in medium-sized boats. The physical strength needed for repairs at sea, the endurance against storms, and the ability to withstand long periods of isolation are challenging with age. While inspiring, her journey underscores the need for vigor and preparation, making such adventures potentially dangerous for seniors, whose health and agility may not withstand the extreme demands of the sea. Number 5. Sir Robin Knox-Johnston, 1968 to 1969. Sir Robin Knox-Johnston, born in 1939 in London, England, entered history as the first man to circumnavigate the world solo, without stops and without assistance, a milestone in solo sailing. He departed from Falmouth on June 14, 1968, aboard the Suhaili, a 32-foot ketch that he helped build with Indian teak. After 312 days, he returned on April 22, 1969, covering approximately 30,000 nautical miles, being the only one to complete the Sunday Times Golden Globe race, a competition that saw 8 other competitors abandon or die. His route included the Cape of Good Hope, Leeuwin, and Horn, facing brutal conditions in remote seas. At 29 years old, Knox-Johnston had experience as a merchant Navy officer, but this voyage tested his limits. The challenges were extreme. In the Antarctic Ocean, he faced waves of 50 feet and winds of 60 knots, nearly losing the Suhaili near Cape Horn. The autopilot broke early, forcing him to use an improvised rope system to maintain course, and the radio failed, isolating him for months. He navigated with a sextant and chronometer, carrying supplies like canned meat and water, supplemented by fishing. A critical moment occurred when the boat began leaking, requiring constant repairs with limited materials, demonstrating his practical skill and determination. Knox-Johnston documented his odyssey in A World of My Own, published in 1969, which reveals the solitude and dangers of the journey, balanced by moments of beauty such as albatross sightings. Upon returning, he donated the 5,000-pound prize to the family of a deceased competitor, was knighted in 1995, and founded the Clipper Round the World race, inspiring generations of sailors. His feat proved that solo circumnavigations were possible in small boats, changing the perception of the sport. For men over 60, Knox-Johnston's story, accomplished in his youth, highlights the risks of long ocean crossings, the strength needed for repairs in adverse conditions, the endurance of 312 days of isolation, and the ability to face storms require physical and mental vigor that diminishes with age. While inspiring, his journey serves as a warning. Seniors may face extreme difficulties in such endeavors, making them dangerous without exceptional preparation. Number 4. Joshua Slocum, 1895 to 1898. Joshua Slocum, born in 1844 in Nova Scotia, Canada, was the first man to circumnavigate the world solo, a feat that marked the history of solo sailing. He departed from Boston, U.S. on April 24, 1895, aboard the Spray, a 36-foot sloop that he rebuilt from an abandoned hull. After 3 years and 2 months, he returned to Newport, Rhode Island on June 27, 1898, covering approximately 46,000 nautical miles. His route included the Atlantic, Pacific, and Indian Oceans, with strategic stops like in Australia and South Africa, facing hostile seas and unfamiliar cultures. At 51 years old, Slocum had decades of experience as a merchant captain, but this voyage was a unique test of endurance and skill. The challenges were numerous. In the Strait of Magellan, he faced winds of 50 knots and treacherous currents, nearly sinking. He navigated using a sextant and chronometer, without modern technologies, and faced pirate attacks off the coast of South America, repelling them with ingenious tactics like spreading tacks on deck. Storms in the South Atlantic damaged the Spray, requiring improvised repairs with limited resources, while the solitude of 3 years was alleviated by reading and self-talk. His diet included caught fish and basic supplies, such as dried meat, stocked for long crossings. Slocum documented his adventure in Sailing Alone Around the World, published in 1900, which became a classic of nautical literature. The book details encounters with whales, storms, and the struggle against exhaustion, balanced by moments of wonder, such as sailing under stars. His feat inspired sailors like Knox-Johnston and Cottee, proving that a single man could conquer the oceans in a modest boat. After the voyage, Slocum disappeared in 1909 during a crossing in the Atlantic, presumed lost at sea at the age of 65. For men over 60, Slocum's story, accomplished at 51 years old, is inspiring but also a warning. The physical strength needed for repairs at sea, the endurance of 3 years of isolation, and the ability to face pirates and storms require vigor that diminishes with age. Seniors may find such challenges dangerous, especially without support, making his feat an example of courage and a reminder of caution. Number 3. Captain James Cook, 1768 to 1771. James Cook, born in 1728 in Yorkshire, England, was one of the greatest maritime explorers in history, leading his first significant circumnavigation between 1768 and 1771 as captain of HMS Endeavour. He departed from Plymouth on August 26, 1768, with the mission of observing the transit of Venus in Tahiti on June 3, 1769, a scientific task commissioned by the Royal Society. After fulfilling this objective, Cook followed secret orders to explore the South Pacific, mapping the east coast of Australia and circumnavigating New Zealand, before returning to England on July 12, 1771, after nearly 3 years and approximately 30,000 nautical miles. At 40 years old, Cook was already an experienced navigator in the Royal Navy, but this voyage solidified his fame. The challenges were immense. Cook faced the Great Barrier Reef, where the Endeavour ran aground on June 11, 1770, requiring 6 weeks of improvised repairs on the Australian coast. He also dealt with scurvy, a deadly threat at the time, introducing an innovative diet of citrus fruits and sauerkraut that kept his crew of 94 men healthy, with few deaths. Using rudimentary maps and celestial navigation, Cook explored unknown lands, facing storms in the Pacific and hostilities from indigenous peoples, such as the Maori in New Zealand, resulting in armed confrontations. His leadership was crucial to maintaining discipline on a long and uncertain journey. Cook documented his discoveries in detailed journals, later published as A Voyage Towards the South Pole and Round the World, which revolutionized European geographical knowledge. He claimed Australia for Britain as New South Wales, and accurately mapped areas never before seen by Europeans, contributing to science and colonial expansion. Killed in 1779 in Hawaii during his third voyage, at the age of 50, Cook left a lasting legacy as an explorer and navigator. For men over 60, Cook's story, accomplished in his 40s with a crew, highlights the risks of long expeditions, the strength needed to lead repairs, face storms, and manage conflicts required physical and mental vigor that diminishes with age. For seniors sailing alone today, without support, such challenges would be dangerous, making his feat an example of skill but also of caution. Number 2. Sir Francis Drake, 1577 to 1580. Sir Francis Drake, born around 1540 in Devon, England, was the second man to circumnavigate the world and the first Englishman to do so, establishing himself as one of the greatest navigators of the Elizabethan era. He departed from Plymouth on December 13, 1577, initially with 5 ships, but completed the voyage on the Golden Hind, a 100-ton galleon. After 3 years, he returned on September 26, 1580, covering approximately 36,000 nautical miles. His expedition, financed by private investors and approved by Queen Elizabeth I, aimed to explore the Pacific and raid Spanish possessions. At 37 years old, Drake was already an experienced privateer, but this voyage elevated him to national hero status. The challenges were formidable. In the Strait of Magellan, he faced violent storms that destroyed 2 ships and delayed the fleet, reducing it to the Golden Hind. He raided Spanish ports along the west coast of South America, such as Valparaiso, capturing gold and silver, increasing the risk of retaliation. In the Pacific, he sailed through uncharted waters for Europeans, reaching the California coast, named New Albion, before crossing to the Moluccas and the Cape of Good Hope. Using primitive maps and celestial navigation, Drake faced pirates, diseases like scurvy, and the constant threat of mutiny among his 80 crew members. Drake brought back treasure estimated at £600,000, millions in current values, enriching England and earning him knighthood in 1581, conferred by the Queen aboard the Golden Hind. His accounts, though not directly published by him, were recorded by chroniclers of the time, such as Richard Hakluyt, detailing his exploits and the dangers faced. His circumnavigation challenged Spanish dominance and paved the way for English maritime expansion, influencing generations of explorers. For men over 60, Drake's story, accomplished in his 30s with a crew, underscores the risks of long ocean crossings. The physical strength needed to combat storms, lead attacks, and manage a crew required vigor that diminishes with age. For seniors sailing alone today, Without support, such challenges would be dangerous, especially in vulnerable boats exposed to hostile seas. His feat is a testament of courage, but also a warning about physical limitations in old age. Number 1. Ferdinand Magellan and Juan Sebastian Elcano, 1519 to 1522. Ferdinand Magellan, born in 1480 in Portugal, and Juan Sebastian Elcano, born in 1476 in Spain, led the first circumnavigation of the globe, a milestone that proved the Earth's sphericity. Magellan departed from Sanlúcar de Barrameda, Spain, on September 20th, 1519, commanding 5 ships: Trinidad, San Antonio, Concepcion, Victoria, and Santiago, with 270 men, under orders from King Charles I to find a western route to the Spice Islands, Moluccas. After his death in 1521, Elcano took command of the Victoria, returning on September 6, 1522, with only 18 survivors after 3 years and approximately 42,000 nautical miles. Magellan was 39 years old at the start, and Elcano, 43, completed the feat. The challenges were colossal. In the Atlantic, they faced mutinies in 1520, with crew members questioning Magellan's leadership. He executed rebels to maintain order. In the Strait of Magellan, discovered by him, storms and currents destroyed the Santiago and led the San Antonio to desert. After crossing the Pacific, named by Magellan for its initial calm, hunger and scurvy killed dozens, forcing the crew to eat leather and rats. On April 27, 1521, Magellan was killed in battle in the Philippines against Chief Lapu-Lapu, leaving Elcano to lead the crossing of the Indian Ocean and the return via the Cape of Good Hope. Using celestial navigation and rudimentary maps, they faced storms and Portuguese hostility. The expedition brought valuable spices and geographical knowledge, with Elcano receiving a royal coat of arms and the inscription Primus circumdedesti me, the first to encircle me. The diaries of Antonio Pigafetta, a survivor, published as Relazione del primo viaggio intorno al mondo, detail the Odyssey, including the struggle against nature and the loss of 80% of the crew. The feat opened the era of great navigations, influencing explorers like Drake and Cook. For men over 60, the story of Magellan and Elcano, accomplished in their 40s with a crew, highlights the extreme risks of circumnavigations. The strength needed to face mutinies, hunger, and battles, and the endurance of 3 years of adversities required vigor that diminishes with age. For seniors today, without support, such conditions would be dangerous, making this journey an example of historical courage, but a warning about physical limitations in old age. These sailors didn't just navigate the seas, they shaped history, pushed the limits of human endurance, and inspired generations of adventurers. Whether through exploration, record-breaking feats, or sheer determination, their legacies live on, proving that the ocean belongs to those brave enough to challenge it. But now we want to hear from you. Which of these legendary sailors do you admire the most? Don't forget to subscribe to and hit the bell icon. That way you won't miss any of our upcoming videos on sailing adventures, safety tips, and the best sailboats for every journey. Thanks for watching.